And there we are. We are live. A very good Saturday morning to you. It's time for Drive Time Radio. New York Vinnie here with you, as usual, about 11 o'clock every Saturday morning. We get together and have a little hoopty-doopty showdown, kind of fun show talking about cars. Today, we're probably going to do things a little bit differently. Matter of fact, I know we're going to do things a little bit differently. Um, I mean, an unbelievable victory by the Mariners last night. So we're going to spend at least a little bit of time talking about that and talking about just the emotions and everything that was just gathered up around last night's game. You know, a winner take all game against a tough Detroit team. And congratulations to the Detroit Tigers. I mean, you want to talk about a worthy opponent. They were a worthy opponent. They really were. So let's give congratulations and let's give thanks that we had a good opponent like that. And let's give thanks that we didn't have to play the Yankees, that we get the Toronto Blue Jays. Although a lot of baseball people, me maybe included, think the path to the World Series may have been easier with the Yankees. We saw how tough that team fights back. But last night, anyway, last night was just an unbelievable moment, an unbelievable evening in Seattle sports history. Now, if you've been around long enough, you remember 95. Now, 95, 2001, those years, I didn't get to enjoy it like I did last night because I was working. You know, I was doing post-game shows and working the locker room, the clubhouse, and you know, deeply involved in the course of events from you know, a media perspective, a media point of view. And so I didn't get to enjoy it like I did last night when I just sat on the couch, texted and talking to friends and loved ones, and just having this time of my life, just being a fan, you know. And when you are in the media business, sometimes you forget about being a fan because you can't be partial. You're not supposed to be this. You're not supposed to be that. But it was great because it felt to me last night like it did in 1969 in some ways with when the Mets first made the series. And I know it's not a comparison in many ways, but in one way it is. That was the last time I really was a fan. You know, I just got to go to the game and enjoy the game, sitting there, drinking a couple of beers and having a good time. And you know, you want to do that and you feel it in certain ways, but it was really cool to have that happen. And I just boy, I tell you, I was just I don't know about you, but everybody I know last night was just on the absolute edge of their seats. And I'll have a story about that for you in just a couple of minutes. But it really was unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. A night that will go down in Seattle sports history as one of those nights that you shared it with your friends, you shared it with your relatives, you shared it with anybody that you could share it with. You know, I mean, if 411 would still be on, you know, where you would call up information and get the 411, you know, now they say Google it. Back then it was 411. I'd have called up the information operator and started talking to her about it. That's what it was like. It was like people were just talking to each other in the supermarket and on the streets and anywhere they could because it was such a special moment. 15 innings, the Mariners just taking command in that final inning after, listen, you know, I heard a lot of people already this morning. Well, they squandered opportunities. You know, they had a chance to win the game, and they didn't win the game. And oh, you know, the Mariners will never. You know, shut the heck up. Okay, enjoy it for a day. Sit around, enjoy the enjoyment as I believe it was either Mike Cameron or Mark McLemore, I can't remember now, who originally said that back in a clubhouse in 2001. But enjoy the enjoyment of what you experienced last night. You experienced that incredible place where baseball crosses with the supernatural, with the strange, with the weird things that happen. As I said, I got a story to tell you about that in just a little bit. But congratulations to the Mariners. Congratulations to a baseball club that has taken us at times this year for a roller coaster ride. I mean, we've been up and down and up and down. Remember that? In the middle of the summer, it started to look like they might even drop out. Yeah, I mean, drop down to down to the bottom. But all of a sudden, Dan Wilson and his coaching staff found the secret sauce. Part of that secret sauce was the big dumper. Part of that secret sauce was the trades that were made at the deadline that brought in Eugenio, that brought in, you got to love this guy, Naylor. I mean, you got to love him. I mean, he's that big, beautiful, Cal is a presence. Cal Raleigh is a presence. No doubt about it, behind the plate. But Josh Naylor is a presence out on the field. And I mean on the field. Cal's stuck behind the plate. He's in the middle of the batter and the umpire. You can hardly see him. And then on top of it, he's wearing a mask. So he gets his big props when he gets up to bat. Naylor is out there for all the plays when he's out in the field. He's out there and he's big and he's beautiful and he's on second base and he's waving his hands. I don't know if he was relaying signs in that game 4 or not, but I do know that it got everybody's attention. And I do know that it created a diversion, that it created something for people for the players themselves to take their mind on the other side, of course, to take their mind not off the game, but to put a little doubt in their minds. Do they know the signs? Do they not know the signs? Does this guy know what the heck he's talking about? Or is he just out there waving his arms to act a fool? Well, he's not out there waving his arms to act a fool. You know that he's playing that guy. Remember in 2001, Mike Cameron was on first base, and Lou Piniella came out of the dugout, and he went to Cameron at first base. Something you never see. You never see a manager come out of the dugout and talk to a player on the field, especially a runner. But Piniella comes out of the dugout, and he talks to Mike Cameron, and then Mike Cameron goes back, and the Mariners go on to rally, and everybody in the stadium, everybody watching on TV, everybody listening on radio, everybody is trying to figure out, what did Lou say to him? What could have Lou possibly said to Mike Cameron to motivate the rest of the team? But it was a great old baseball guy learning some baseball tricks from a guy who learned baseball tricks from the ultimate baseball trickster. And I'm talking about Lou Piniella learning things from Billy Martin, learning things from Casey Stengel. Okay? That's how far back the lineage goes. That's what the lineage looks like. And Dan Wilson learning from Lou Piniella. Create some kind of, at the right time, use some kind of diversion. Use some kind of something that will draw some attention to something else. Make them think. You don't even have to have anything. Just make them think that something is going on. And boy, did they do that masterfully in that game 4, which I believe probably led to at least a portion of what happened in game 5. It put just a seed of doubt in the Tigers' heads. And that's all you needed. All you needed was a seed of doubt in the Tigers' heads. And a game like that last night, an unbelievable game to solidify an effort, a team-wide effort, an organizational-wide effort. Now, I don't know if this is true, but we have complained for many years about the Mariners organization and the Mariners not wanting to win. And let's face it, the front office at times have said some pretty not smart things, okay? Things that weren't exactly smart. Things that made you think, well, what the heck are they really, what are they thinking? And what is this? Do they, if they win 52% of their games, and get tied up in the stats. And the reality is that this organization seems to have made a decision in the middle of the year. John Stanton and the people that pull the money strings, they seem to have made a decision this year to go for it, to do what needed to be done in this organization to make it happen, to make everything that they were, that the Seattle fan wants in the baseball team, and really that is an opportunity to compete, an opportunity to feel like we have a chance, that they have a chance, not we. I mean, I know it's always funny to me. People say we. It's not we, it's them. But that they have a chance, and we as fans have a chance to go along for the ride of competing. And finally, somewhere, somehow, some way, the front office got it. The front office said, open up the wallet, spend what you got to spend, trade for who you got to trade for, do the thing. Eugenio Suarez should have never been offered his team. He should have never been gone. I mean, that guy is a stud. And he shouldn't have been let go. He was a key part of the team a couple of years ago that went to the playoffs and lasted through, what was that, 18 innings in that game. And again, it was, and this is what I love about baseball so much. I mean, you got your Cal Raleigh and you got your Julio Rodriguez and you got, your Polanco and you got all of these different guys that put the effort in, that are stars, that are people that are going to make it all click for you. But who are the people that made it happen last night? Well, it was Polanco, a guy who they re-signed, but it was also Leo Rivas. It was guys that you don't think about. It was Suarez making that great play. It was starting pitchers that came out of the bullpen and pitched their asses off and pitched their arms off and brought, as a fan, you're sitting there, and I'm sitting on my chair that I watch baseball in, and I'm sitting there and I'm going to myself, if these, and I'm sure people in the ballpark were saying this, if these guys are putting this effort into it, I'm going to put this effort into it as a fan. I'm going to will it to happen. That's where the emotion comes from. That's where you have the people that are standing up and crying. Who was it? Saul Spady from Dicksburg was shown on TV crying That's where you get that from. When they put that kind of effort in, as they did last night, to win that game in 15 innings, one of a game that will go down as one of the greatest postseason games in baseball history. When they go down, when they take that effort, when you see them give that effort, how can you sit there and just not call in all of the karma, all of the unbelievable thing that we have as fans that wills our teams to win? Yes, you got to have skill. Yes, you got to have passion. But there's also another piece to it. There's a sense of, every year there's a sense of a team that I always believe, and these are my own beliefs. Listen, I'm sure you'll get people that'll come up here. The folks, I don't even know if they're still around. USS Mariner used to would have like the first guys to have all these stats and everything. And it was great because a guy like me could look at the USS Mariner and we could see the stats that, but I'm not a stats guy. I'm a guy that goes by the seat of my pants. I go by feeling. I go by what I'm seeing, what I'm feeling, what I'm looking at, the human reaction to things are. Because to me, that is still baseball. That is still the thing of baseball is the human reaction. How will J.P. Crawford act in a certain situation? How will a pitcher that Dan Wilson brings in, what will he do? Will he overreact? Will he get taken out of his comfort zone? How will these guys act? How will the guys that have experience in the postseason that are on this ball club, how will they lead the ones that don't have postseason experience through this process? I was so impressed with Dan Wilson's clubhouse meeting last night. It was weird because, again, since 95, I've been in the clubhouse when all of this stuff goes. So this was a different perspective for me to see. And it was incredible because Danny is a guy that people put their faith in because he has faith. He has so much faith. He believes in a higher power making things move along. I always tell this story, and I'll tell it right here. We used to have a priest in school, and we play, football, and, the guy would, we'd always say to the priest, well, we're with the Catholic school. So because we have God on our side, aren't we going to win today? And the priest would say, if you block your man, you'll win. And that's Dan. He has a strong faith. He has a technical knowledge of the game because he was a catcher and because he's one of the most intelligent people you'll ever meet. I mean, I love this guy. I re-energized my core fandom when they made Dan Wilson the manager of this team. I mean, again, people that have listened to me a long time, when I was on Cairo, when I was on KJR, you may remember that I think it was 2000 or 2001, Dan was in a terrible slump. And we actually prayed for Dan Wilson on the air. We actually, on a post-game show, we said, God, please let Dan Wilson start hitting home runs. And the next night, he started hitting home runs. Again, a collective effort of everybody. It's hard not to participate in a collective effort when a game is going 15 innings because people all over the place are turning it on. People are coming home from dinner. They're coming home from being out in restaurants, or they're out in restaurants and people are saying, hey, you hear what's going on at Safeco or at T-Mobile? Turn on the game, man. It's going into the 12th inning, the 13th inning. Turn on the game. And so people turn it on, and the viewership and the mojo. And I was so glad a few years ago that they used that Soto mojo, because it really is mojo. Baseball has more mojo than any other sport. Baseball brings that unknown factor into the sport more than any other sport, I think. Again, the opinions here are just ones expressed of my own. They're not anybody else's. And Dan Wilson has a faith that allows him. As a matter of fact, he has so much faith that his faith allows him to put faith in other people. That was the thing that people didn't get about Lou Piniella. There was always people calling up the show, fire Lou Piniella. The thing about Lou Piniella is that his players, the people that he managed, that he ran, had unwavering faith in him. Jay Buhner once told me that these guys would jump through a ring of fire in the clubhouse for Lou. They would jump through scalding water for Lou. They would do anything for Lou. That's the kind of faith that Lou got out of his people. And that is what I believe the Mariners have in Dan Wilson. Yeah, can you argue that he's taken a couple of pitches out a little early? Yeah, he knows his pitches better than we do. I think. I'm pretty sure of it. I'll have to ask him the next time I see him. And that, when it has that faith at the top, it just trickles down to all the players in the organization, trickles down to the clubbies. The clubhouse guys do their job better because Dan has put faith in them. They feel like they're in a professional organization. Ownership gives Dan the tools to work it, and he works his magic. He puts the right players in there at the right time. And it was an unbelievable experience again last night. And I know I keep saying that, but it was. It was a really special experience for me because, again, I'm up. I'm pacing the floor. I'm walking outside on the patio. I'm back in. I'm walking again. I'm walking all around the place. I'm screaming. I'm calling people. People are calling me. I'm on the phone with my ex-wife. She's on the phone with me. I'm on the phone with friends. I'm all over the place because I'm waiting for something to happen. And as the innings go on, that feeling that I got in my stomach didn't become a feeling of they're going to blow this. How are they going to blow this? In years gone past, that might have been what happened. Not like the Mets, where you know, the last 3 or 4 weeks of the Mets season, you just, every time you watched the game, you figured out, how are they going to blow this today? The Mariners, you had this feeling, and again, from Dan Wilson on down, and I'll put ownership in here because, again, ownership changed this organization at the trading deadline. Ownership and the general manager said, we are going to go for it. And then you had Cal Raleigh with the rally cry of why not effing go for it? Why not effing win the whole thing? Similar to 95 again. I remember having Buhner on my show in 95. And I'm talking to Buhner, and you know, we start talking about the playoffs, and he says, playoffs? I didn't say it like that, like the Jim Mora-esque playoffs. He says, playoffs? No, we're going for the World Series, man. We don't want to win the wild card. We want to win the division. We want to go to the World Series. We're in this to win it. We refuse to lose. I don't know if he said we want to win the wild card, but he had an innate belief, did Jay, that this team could achieve, they could accomplish. They had the tools to do it. All they needed was the right push. And I don't want to get too much into 95, but for those that do remember, there was an incredible backstory going on while everything was going on the field, and Lou and Junior and Dan and all of the players, except maybe for Bobby Ayala, I don't know. But everybody's trying to win and establish this franchise as a winner, a contender, dump that loser's image. Dump that what was it, Steinbrenner that said it many years ago. There's no baseball in the Northwest. That this was a place that they just went to pick up a check and play a couple of games and leave. Well, it's not like that anymore. And last night, again, was another sense that this team is not like that anymore. Is not like what you saw for the past 24 years. That there is a difference. That there is a sense of we're on to something here. And I use the words when they get to the World Series, when they beat the Blue Jays. You listening to me, Canada? I love you, Canada. I know we broke your heart with tariffs. We're going to break it again with the Blue Jays. But when the Mariners get to the World Series, they will again legitimize this organization to a degree that it had never seen before. I said this in a post earlier this year. The Mariners have to get to a World Series, and soon. It's the original sin on the soul of this franchise that it has not gotten to a World Series. When in years gone by, in a number of years, they had the equipment to do it. How many Hall of Fame players were on this team in the past 30 years? How many times did they have? Look at the lineup in 95 and 2000 and 97 and 2001. Christ, they won 116 games in 2001. Now, that was a special year. That was certainly a special year. But it was still a year that they should have won it. They should have beat the Yankees. Again, that was, I always thought that was another divine. The Yankees were meant to win that year. With everything that had gone on in New York, the Yankees were meant to win that LCS and go up against the Diamondbacks, who eventually won, but with Randy Johnson, of course. Heartbreaking. Sometimes baseball breaks your heart. But it was incredible. And the game, we haven't spoken too much about the game, but the roller coaster emotion of the game, the pieces where they had to have incredible, spectacular defense to cut down a run, cutting down runners at the plate, getting a couple of breaks on calls, getting sowing the seeds of doubt in the Tigers' heads. Like they're sitting there going, are we really meant to win this? Or are we here as just foils for this team that's going to go to the World Series? Or at least go to the LCS. Now, I don't want to use that. I want to use that they're gonna win the LCS. There's no doubt in my mind because players don't have a doubt in their mind that they're going to win. Those pitchers, when they grab that ball to go out on that mound and pitch, they're not sitting there going, well, we go to the World Series, it'd be nice. I mean, to be an athlete at that level, don't you have to be able to believe so much in yourself and your teammates that you have no doubt in your mind that you're going to win that series or win that game or win whatever it is you have to win to get to the next level and to be a champion? Don't you have to have that? I think you do. I don't think you can be a player. A lot of times I used to get into arguments with some of my co-hosts on this because they would say, well, they don't know if they can win. No. I never went into a clubhouse and talked to a player or a manager or a coach who didn't think that he could go out there and beat that team on that day. And that went for the Yankees with all their powerhouse lineups. It went for the Rangers when they had their powerhouse lineups. It went for the Mets when they had their powerhouse lineups. The Cardinals. I never spoke to players who said, gee, I don't know if we can win this thing. I got my doubts. No, they know. Now, they may find out something different, the reality of the situation, maybe, but you have to have that mind-body connection. You have to have your mind set up to believe that you're going to win. Not that you can win, but that you're going to win. That's how you achieve on the highest level. And that's where the fans come in. Because if the fans, it's like the other day in Detroit, fans were, when Detroit, the Tigers got behind, the fans started booing them. Now, I'm not a fan of booing your own club in your own ballpark. I just think it's low class. I know that train has passed me by, and I know there are people now saying, well, I paid $125 for a ticket. I'll boo if I want to boo. But I'm telling you that when you boo players, it works on a player's mind. They'll tell you I don't hear it. Fans got a right to boo. They pay their money, yada, yada, yada. But it works on a player's mind. And I have to think that at least in some small corner of the Tigers, there may have been a little bit of, well, they booed us in our own ballpark. Now, they came back and won that game, obviously, and it's not major league affected them. But it was enough that it would bother some people. And you don't want to be bothered if you don't want to have anything that's going to make you uncomfortable when you are playing a Major League Baseball game. That's why there's no rocks in the field. There's no bumps. All the grass is cut evenly. That there's drinks and bubble gum and sunflower seeds in the dugout. That there's padding on the wall so that they don't get uncomfortable when they run into the wall. That's probably why they have the salmon races, so that the players can enjoy them while they're waiting for the inning to start up again. Probably not, but it's just this, the player at that level has to be as comfortable as is possible. No distractions. No worrying about if you're running down a fly ball, if you're going to trip on a drain or something like that, or you're going to trip on a stone in the warning track. That's why pitchers Used to. They don't do it as much anymore, but they still do. That's why pitchers pitch you inside, because it takes your mind just a little bit off of the game, off of the transaction that's going on right in front of you, and makes you think a little bit. He's going to come in, going to give me some chin music. Is he going to force me off the plate? Am I going to have to jump up? It's called sending a message. It's making a player uncomfortable. And when you do that, again, you sow the seeds of doubt in a player's mind. You sow the seed of what you take their mind off it. You take their mind off the task at hand, which is to hit that curveball, which is to get your bat in the right position, at the right speed, at the right time, in the right place, to reverse the direction of that ball into fair territory and advance to the next or possibly more bases. I'm New York Vinnie. This is Drivetime Radio, a special edition on this Saturday morning. We usually in this space talk about cars. Every Saturday morning from 11 to 12, we sit and we talk about cars, and we'll have some car stuff coming up for you a little bit later in the show, but I couldn't have a night like last night and not talk about it. And not talk about it with people I love, the people that used to listen to my show, the people that now know how to find me on Facebook and on X and on the different social media platforms. You know, that's one thing that this is good for. If I knew how to market things, I could probably, have a lot more listeners. But I'm not the greatest marketing whiz in the world. What I am is a guy who likes to talk to people about things that are going on. I like to find out what people are thinking. Now, this is a dilemma I came up with. And you can certainly email me at vinny@drivetime-radio.com. Or you can, I wish I had a phone set up here where I could take your phone calls. That would make this complete. That's what's missing from this show, are phone calls. But I just, I have a dilemma that I need your help with. You see the hat that I'm wearing, right? I'm wearing my retro Mitchell & Ness Mariners logo here hat that I bought. Every year I buy a hat for the baseball season. Last year, if you remember, I had the home run hat. Hang on a second. Oh, man. I don't get around like I used to. I had my Mets hat, that home run hat that I used while the Mets were working their way toward the National League pennant. They never got there, but they were working their way toward it. And so this year, I had a hat hanging around from the Mariners Italian-American Heritage Night, or Italian Heritage Night. And I started to wear the hat. And at the start of that run at the end of the season, I didn't wear it all season. I wore this most of the season. But at the start of the end of the run, at the end of the season, I wore this hat. Raggedy old looking hat, but it's my colors, my Italian-American colors, and more importantly, good things would happen to the Mariners when I wore the hat. And I'm a guy that believes in those lucky charms, those lucky omens. So I put on the hat, and they started winning. I put on the hat, and they started winning. They put on the hat, they started winning. So I've been wearing the hat all division series. And believe it or not, I had the thing on, and good things happen. So now, here's my dilemma. Does the hat belong on my couch so that the next time that the hat is, that I'm going to watch the game, which will be tomorrow when they're in Toronto, the powers of the Magic Italian hat will be realized. And I saved the powers in the Magic Italian hat for what's coming. Or do I just wear the Magic Italian hat all the time, put this one up on the shelf and leave it there? This one or this one? I tend to want to leave this home. I don't want it blowing off my head while I'm going down Aurora Avenue, or I don't want it to get Yeah, all of a sudden we had a little sound. I said I don't want to leave it somewhere. I don't want to lose it. I don't want it to fly off. I don't want anything bad. I mean, I would have to jump in the water to go save this hat if it fell off my head while I was walking near the water down by the waterfront in Edmonds. So I'm going to leave it on for the rest of the show. My gut feeling is to just go with this hat and not interrupt. But I want to hear what you think, because I'm always a guy that listens to suggestions. A great game last night. 5 o'clock tomorrow afternoon versus the Blue Jays, their expansion cousins in Toronto. I'm New York Vinnie. This is Drivetime Radio, a special baseball edition. I do want to take a minute to tell you about the sponsor of this show, one of the sponsors of this show, my good friend George Jackson. George is a guy that I've known for a bunch of years, and he does advertising specialties. You know what they are? The little things that you get when you go to the ballpark on giveaway nights. Pens, different tchotchkes that you get when you go to a convention. They give you a goodie bag. He sells the stuff to fill the goodie bags. He also sells the goodie bags. And George is a straight up guy. I know that you have, 1,000 places that'll make you up a T-shirt in a half hour and send it out to you and this and that and all of that. Big faceless corporations. When you deal with George, you deal with George. George takes your order. George works with you to get the best possible price. George does all the things that he needs to do to make your experience in buying T-shirts, jackets, golf tournament kind of stuff, tchotchkes, RFID wallets, all the stuff that you need to have in your apartment so that when you find out that you're going to move, you got to take down the Goodwill. Anyway, George is a solid guy. If you need advertising specialties, if you need to get T-shirts for your business, if you need to get rally scarves, if you need to get any of this kind of stuff, go to GeorgeJacksonPromotions.com, GJP. He's on Facebook at George Jackson Promotions. He's on all the different social media places. What I promise you, and see, I can do this with George because I know George. I can promise you that George will treat you fairly, that he won't dodge your phone calls, that he'll give you something that's missing in society today, but he still has it. Service. You can call George up at 9 o'clock at night and say, "Hey, George, what's going on? I need to have my stuff tomorrow. And he'll giving you a totally reassuring, yeah, don't worry. It'll be there. I got it. It's there. You can't do that with design a shirt or scooch a logo or any of these other places. There's nobody to talk to. It's the biggest problem in American business today. There's nobody to talk to. I want somebody to talk to. I mean, good Christmas. Even the talk shows aren't talk shows anymore. They're hosts reading shows. The host picks up people's tweets or people's stuff, and it says, you gotta read this. And they read it over the air, and that's what passes for a talk show. Well, I don't know how we're going to do it, but we're going to figure out a way in the next week or so to try to figure out a way to be able to take your phone calls for the next time I do this. Fifteenth inning. Tommy Canley pitching. Cal Raleigh contributes by hitting a fly ball. Julio gets the intentional walk. Julio, they're smart enough to walk him. They don't want to get beat by Julio. And then up steps Jorge Polanco. And, of course, Polanco has got an eye for the ball. What's the stat I saw that he had never been struck out against the Tigers pitching or some weird stat like that. Anyway, Polanco gets up there and works the count to 3-2. I mean, how do you, any schoolyard that you're in, and you're a kid playing stickball or playing, it's the bottom of the ninth, and it's 3-2, 2 out, and the pitcher delivers. Well, this time, when the pitcher delivered, the hitter responded. It went into right field. Everybody hustled down. J.P. Crawford, the longest tenure Mariner, scored the winning run. Bottom of the 15th. If you try to tell me that that's not divine intervention, if you try to tell me things like that guy the other night catching Cal's home run ball in Comerica Park, if you try to tell me that there's not some sort of divine intervention, some sort of magical thing at work, if you try to tell me that, no, it's all about stats, you don't understand. It's all about this. It's all about that. It's all about stats. I will tell you, you're wrong. I will tell you that you may think like that. You may want to try to tell me that that's what's going on, but I know better. I believe in this team. I believe in the power of baseball. I believe in the baseball gods. I mean, I used to talk about the baseball gods all the time on a post-game show, and I actually would have people calling me up and saying that I was blasphemous, which used to really crack me up. I just have people call me up and say, you can't say that, you can't do that, you're taking the name of God in vain. I'm sorry, I don't believe that. You're not saying you should worship. Well, maybe I did once or twice say you worship, but I say you should believe in the baseball gods. You should believe in the spirituality. You should believe that anything is possible, that this team is doing things that you did not consider to be possible anymore. And And it, for people who have waited for so long for this to happen, for people who were in the ballpark last night and the center field, I guess it was the right field gate, opened up. And all of a sudden, you could see a pair of headlights coming in from behind the wall, and you could see a car starting to emerge from behind that wall. And all of a sudden, you look up, you're looking for it, and out of the gate comes Ken Griffey Jr. riding in a classic. I think that's a '68, might be a '67 Camaro, and you had to feel like something special was going on. The ballpark littered with people who were on that team back in '95, the season that saved baseball in Seattle. And there was Griffey on the warning track, coming out, being driven to the mound to throw out the first pitch. And I thought of all the people that wanted so badly to see this kind of result from the Seattle Mariners. I thought of my friend. The first guy I thought of was my friend Indy Industry. And Moose Clausen. Guys who love this team, old Ballard boys that love this team with all their heart and all their soul. Went to game after game after game. Went to the golf tournaments. Moose worked for the club. And I thought of those guys. And I thought of the other guys that aren't with us anymore. And women. And I thought of Dave. And how in some room or some place above us all, above the closed roof, above this hallowed ground that at one time sat the Filson Company and Kingdome parking lots, this ground where fathers and sons would play catch before going into a game, or where that excitement of going with your dad to a baseball game, even though it was a flawed experience because you were going inside in the Kingdome, still it was the loudest building in the league, probably the loudest building in Major League Baseball. And I thought of Rick the Peanut Man. And I thought of Ron Fairley, who had one of the great minds of baseball. And I thought about all of these people and how I truly believe from somewhere, somehow, some way, they were watching. And they believed and helped us to believe that this could happen, that this team was no longer a joke, that this team was a team that you could rely on, that you could count on this time in this place. That's what I was thinking when I saw Junior coming down on the warning track to throw out that first pitch. I was also thinking that was a pretty damn cool car. That was a nice Camaro. I had a 69 Camaro convertible. It was an awesome car. 69 Z28 convertible. Well, after all, it is a show about cars. And I saw that, and I understood and really felt the meaning of Mojo and what Mojo was all about, and what Mojo helped direct this this aggregation of souls that were all focused on one thing: to win, to beat the Detroit Tigers, to have that energy coming from the corner of Edgar and Dave up to where the spirits live. I know I'm getting a little woo here. Up to where the spirits live, and give the players the confidence of having an assemblage of people and spirits behind them, that this would happen, that this would manifest itself, that it would come. And sure enough, it did. Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. But that's not the best part. Besides the fact that they won, that's not the best part. I'm going to tell you the best part. I'm going to give you something that I didn't see till this morning that moved me to tears. I mean, I was kind of teary last night when I was watching the game and they won, and I was excited and it was on the edge of the seat, and I kept telling people, hang on, they're going to win this thing, because I felt it in my soul and in my heart that they were going to win. That they had this, that the experience met the spirituality to make it happen. But there's something else that happened that I didn't know about that was even better. And hang on to this story, because this is, you're going to get a little bit of inside baseball here. You're going to get a little bit of inside information. So when you're working with the Mariners, when you're working with the team in games, a lot of times one of the announcers' families, somebody will come up in a game like extra innings in a game at the end of the game after a postseason show to sit in the booth for a little while or until the end of the game so they can go home with dad, if it was Dave or other people that have worked on the games, on the broadcast. You'd go into the booth and you'd sit there in the second row of elevated seats and you'd keep quiet. You couldn't really cheer or say anything because the radio stuff was going on. It doesn't happen in television because, or not much at least, because the booth is crowded. You got a different stage. You got this, you got that. You got a lot of stuff going on. But in radio, it lends itself to have people around. It's almost like a studio audience. And so, and it's a small room. It's got a little refrigerator, a coffee maker, a whiteboard for writing messages down. And at the top of the whiteboard, it says, who the hell is Angel Bravo, I believe. And so at the end of games, especially because I did the post-game show, we would do the handoff where Dave would be doing the happy totals, Dave and Rick. And I would have to slide in to, during the commercial break where we would go from the post-game show to the, to the talk show, to me recapping the show and bringing back, maybe having a player on, maybe playing some of the sound from down in the locker room. Anyway, it's a happy transfer of people, and me, Al's family would go, and Rick and his family would go, and Kevin would go, and Many times it would be myself, a producer, if we didn't have one back to somebody who was down, an intern who was down getting a player reaction from the clubhouse, and maybe a fan or two, a family member, whoever. Be a limited, very limited number of people that were allowed to come in there. But they came in. Well, last night that happened too. The tradition doesn't leave us. It's still, maybe some different people, but the Niehaus family has the opportunity to go there. It's something that they've been doing for years, and I'm sure that they are invited in by Rick and management. And so Dave's daughter, Greta, did her natural thing and went to the booth and goes in probably around the ninth inning, because whichever way it goes, you got your mom, you got your rest of your family, you got to get going and go. And this has been happening after Mariner games since the Kingdome. It was something that I was always proud to be a part of. When I got to slide in and sit in Dave Niehaus's seat, when I would do the post-game show, it would literally, I realized every time I sat on that piece of leather, how lucky I was to have this opportunity. Anyway, so Greta Niehaus, Dave's daughter, is in the booth, and it's the 11th, it's the 12th, and it's nerve-wracking, as you could see. I mean, you're pacing up and down there. She's pacing up and down. She can't take it anymore. So Greta goes out, walks out. I think it's on the same level. Maybe you got to go up or down one level. I think you probably got to go down a level, I think. Walks out. A lot of people don't know who Greta is, so she can walk out in relative anonymity out to the statue of her father. And she goes to the statue and she sits on her father's, next to her father. I don't know if you can sit on his lap, but she sits there with her dad as this spectacle of a baseball game is going on. It is, and in the bottom of the 15th, when it all happens, there she is, leaning on her dad like she probably did for so many years when she was a little girl, when she'd have a talk about a question for daddy. Any of us who are fathers that have daughters know about that special relationship, know about trying to get your daughter or your son through crazy times, through difficult times. And there's Greta sitting next to the statue of her dad in Safeco Field, T-Mobile Park. And the game-winning hit is delivered, and Greta just sits there, and she could feel, I think, I didn't talk to her personally, I just communicated with her through email, through messages, but she feels the spirit of her father, like we all felt the spirit of her father last night. The people that knew her father, the people that listened to her father, the people for who Dave Niehaus was the godfather of Mariner baseball, was the one thing that kept you interested when there were long nights of 10 runs behind, when there was names that you can't even remember out in the field and uniforms that were hideous, when there were the last game of another fruitless baseball season, when you really wondered if there was Major League Baseball in Seattle, like the folks from back in New York would say. She was there for all of that. And here she was tonight, sitting next to her dad, looking out upon the perfect green blanket that is a baseball field, and channeling the spirit of her father into this game. Having the connection between the spiritual world, the world of our past, the world of our mojo, with the present, with what was happening right now, with Jorge Polanco launching that ball into right field. And with 45,000, 46,000, 47,000 fans going clean out of their heads, which with bar rooms all over the Northwest, with people jumping down, throwing, drinking drinks and toasting each other, and people in cars honking their horns. And a crazy fat guy like me going back and forth in his living room, doing the Irish jig and jumping up and down. That was what that was right there. That was Dave. That was his influence on this franchise and on this game and on this group of fans. And thank God we have his daughter here to be a part of that. Thank God we have his wife, Marilyn, here to be a part of that. Thank God that we have this franchise still here so that we can be a part of that. Thank God for people who worked to bring you last night, to all of the people that work in the field, all of the groundskeepers, and all of the wonderful people who would work. There's another guy, when I mentioned people that weren't here anymore, and I'm so sorry, I can't remember his name, but there was a great gentleman a couple of great gentlemen. One guy was a guy that used to look at our passes, and I always remember this guy because his last name was Rizzuto. But he would look at our media passes to let us into the ballpark when we get there. And then there was another guy who would look at our passes to let us into the clubhouse after or before a game. Keepers of the Mariners gate, if you will. In a much more simpler time when you weren't worried about people sneaking into the clubhouse. People, for the most part, kept their distance and were respectful. Anyway, Greta, in this photo, says it all. This photo, to me, just says and illustrates the connection between the world that's here and the world that's guiding us from somewhere else. Some people will say I'm nuts, that it's just a statue. It's just a piece of wood and some metal and some guy sitting out there. There's some words. Get out the rye bread and mustard, Grandma. It's grand salami time. But you and I know, if you've listened to my shows for a long time, and me with Michael and me with, guys like Brian Prowitz and Mark Zebelman and a ton of people who were part of putting these shows on the air. To Kevin Kremen, who engineered so many of these games. And again, listen to me. We're not there yet. We're not there yet. But we are close to the prize. And I just feel like there's a renewed spirit. There's a renewed feeling among fans that we are as good as anybody else. And even if we're not, I will choose to believe, and I hope that fans will choose to believe, that we are until we are proven wrong. There's an old saying that goes in Alcoholics Anonymous meetings and, recovery and stuff like that, that says, act as if. Well, I'm acting as if we're as good as anybody else. That's what I'm acting as. All right, listen, I've been droning on now for over an hour. I just, we're gonna put the review and the Yo Vinnie, what are you driving this week off until next week. We are going to, we're just gonna say tomorrow night, try to go to a place where there are fans, where there are people who think like you do, that they love this team and they want to see this team achieve something and bring something to this city. Bring something to this city that it has never had before. A World Series. To bring to this city something that, as divided as we are on so many things these days in this country, that will pull us all together for at least a week or two. Where you see somebody with a Trump button on hugging somebody with a Harris button on or an Obama button on. Because this has no politics. Although I guarantee you everybody that's running for election will show up in front of the ballpark trying to shake your hand and ask for your vote. I know that's going to happen. But treat this as if we belong in the conversation. Because, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, we belong in the conversation. Seattle and its fans and its players belong in the championship conversation. We earned our way there. And we will be there starting tomorrow afternoon. And I'll say one more thing before I get out of here and leave you to the rest of your day and whatever else is going on. Toronto, when we talk about spiritual, Toronto is an incredible city. You may remember this, you may not remember this, but the last year that I was doing the post-game show, which I believe was 2002, I was doing the pregame and the post-game show on radio. We did this thing called Sunday Conversation. And on Sunday afternoon before the game or Sunday, whatever the game was on Sunday, I would come in and I would record a conversation with Dave. And we would replay that conversation in the pregame show. And they would just a couple of minutes of, I'd ask him a question about this or that or something in Mariner history, something that he observed about the game that maybe he wouldn't have time to explain. Where'd you learn the words to Wabash Cannonball? Just kind of interesting questions that you wanted to hear Dave's opinion on. And I remember the Mariners were in Toronto, and I was talking to Dave on the pregame show on Cairo, and I had asked him a question about something. And we had kind of um, gone into Mike Blowers, who was an analyst for the team at the time. And as we get into the conversation about Blowers, Dave starts to go off on about how good an analyst Mike Blowers is, that he picks up things and he sees things in a game that nobody else really sees. That you have to be a trained eye, a player, to observe it. And Dave is pointing this out. So I'm going, yeah, okay, Dave, yeah, that's pretty cool. We'll keep an eye on it here on Blowers. So fast forward to Fast forward to a little later in the show, and they're doing the round table in the booth in Toronto, and they're picks to click. Excuse me, not the round table. They're picks to click, and everybody's picking. And Blowers picks Marcus Tuiasosopo, and he says that Marcus, and now I'm paraphrasing here, is going to hit a home run. It's going to be in the sixth inning, top of the sixth. It's going to be like a 3-1 count, and he's going to hit it to like left center field. I mean, he goes that specific. And everybody's going, yeah, okay, yeah, right, Mike. Yeah, okay, you probably heard Dave saying that, and now it's gone to your head a little bit. Well, lo and behold, not more than 4 or 5, I guess 6 innings later, and I'm going to try to pull this up here. Not more than just a couple hours later, it's the 6th inning, and don't you know that there's 2 runners on, and Mike is doing the color, and Rick is with him, and Rick is getting all excited because who is coming up to the plate in the top of the 6th, I think it is, but Marcus Tuiasosopo. Exactly the scenario that Mike Blowers predicted in the pregame show. Exactly the scenario. And I mean, it's pretty bizarre. And sure enough, Tuiasosopo steps into the box, and they start, they're pitching to him, and it's, ball one, ba. All of a sudden, Mike Blowers is sitting there, and they're kind of getting giddy. Rick Riz is getting giddier. He might be the giddiest guy in the world. And all of a sudden, Tuiasosopo swings, and he hits it. Now, Matt Tuiasosopo has never hit a home run before. I think it's his first major league home run, if I'm not mistaken. But it's unreal. Let me see if I can fire this up. Now, again, I'm working in kind of but I'm gonna give it a shot to get it up there. I mean, we'll give it a quick shot. All right, we want this, and we want this, and here we go. No, that's not it. All right, so I will have it. I'll play it Monday with the on Mikey and Vinny. Because I couldn't find it before. I actually have the file, but I just don't have it. So anyway, that's the incredible story of last night. That is one of the most incredible things you'll see about baseball. One of the incredible moments. And I'll also put it on. I will make sure that we put it on the on my YouTube and my it's actually on my YouTube page. I'll put it on I'll post it on Facebook so you can listen to it. But anyway, the point that I'm trying to make here is that Tuia Sissoko hit the ball exactly where Mike Blowers predicted he would hit it in the pregame show. Almost to the seat, almost to the count, almost to the speed of the ball, whether it was the type of pitch it was going to be. It was one of the most unbelievable things I had ever seen in baseball. I did a long piece about it. The next day, I'll post that up there. But the point is that Toronto has been a spiritual place. Has been a place where strange things have happened for the Mariners. Let's hope that unpredictability, let's hope that sense of willing the Mariners, that sense of these guys playing with the sole purpose of getting this team and this city to the World Series for the first time will be like Matt Tuia Sissoko. Did I say Marcus before? Matt Tuia Sissoko stepping up to the plate in that Sunday afternoon in Toronto. Late season Sunday afternoon. Let's hope that will be that spirituality of it all, that synergy of physical and spiritual come together, and that this team, this group of guys led by their manager, Dan Wilson, a star catcher in Cal Raleigh, an incredible pitching staff, and a group of people who believe that they can win this thing and bring something that has been so elusive to the city of Seattle. I hope I live to see it. That this will all come together starting tomorrow afternoon at 5 o'clock. We'll see what happens. If I can jump on tomorrow after the game, maybe we'll try to do something like that and try to figure out a way that we can communicate during the after the end of the game, during the post-game show. That's this edition of Drivetime Radio. I'm getting all stuffed up. Thanks to Greta Niehaus for sending me that picture and allowing me to use it. Thanks to you, the fans, for keeping the faith. Don't lose your faith now. Thanks to all the Mariners and all the people that have been here and have left us and are somewhere up in that big ballpark in the sky watching this game. And we'll be watching this game tomorrow. It's an incredible experience, and I'm so glad that we can spend it together, whether it's a few of us or a bunch of us. It really means something to me to be able to talk to you about it. Thank you so much also to our sponsor, George Jackson. George Jackson, business stuff. I call it stuff, business specialties. If you need, small gifts for your business, if you need bobbleheads, if you need imprinted stuff for your business, if you need towels, if you need whatever you need for your business, that'll make people stand up and notice your business more. George Jackson will make it happen for you, and he'll make it happen at a great price, and he'll make it happen with personal service. So please, if you get a chance and you need that stuff, go to George Jackson Promotions on Facebook, George Jackson Promotions on the internet, on the World Wide Web, and give George a call and give him a shot at your business. Well, what could go wrong? I'm telling you, if you've listened to me for a long time, you know I don't steer you wrong. This guy's the real deal, and he will do the right thing by you. Thank you so much for listening to me rant the last hour and a half. I will see you Monday morning at 10:10 with Michael Knight as we jump into the Mikey and Vinnie show, and that is if the Lord is willing and the creek don't rise. Have a good Sunday. Have a good Saturday. Have a good weekend. Be safe. And peace, love, and Manischewitz. And if Michael was here, he'd say, what a wine. Take care, folks. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.